I get those goosebumps, baby. I get those goosebumps every time you come around. Yeah. You lose your mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those times, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hype, throw that to the side. I get those goosebumps every time.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Loaded Mag NUFC. It's the big match preview, and it is a big match this Monday, Monday Night Football. And of course, we've got a fantastic guest in to talk about it. But look, Chris, I think we're working. The camera's working. My volume's working. Neil's here. We all good?
I think so, mate. I hope so. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. All
Brilliant,
good.
brilliant.
Oh, good. And of course, it wouldn't be the same having a big match preview without our guest. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome him back. It's Neil Atkinson, CEO of Anfield Wrap. How are you doing, Neil?
Oh, very well indeed. Yeah, big day, big weekend. There's so many games, by the way, just to point out. Like, it starts on Friday night again this weekend and spreads right the way across. So I've just been doing our Premier League preview show there, and yeah, there's a few absolute belters. Man City, Tottenham should be good. I think that could have something about it. I think Burnley, Sunderland's quietly the biggest game of the weekend. But there'll be no atmosphere more vociferous than the one on Monday night. I can't wait.
Absolutely, yeah. And we can't wait as well. We are absolutely buzzing for this. I think both sets of fans are, as you've said, Neil. But we have to discuss what has been an up and down summer, a mad summer. Certainly for Newcastle United. May well be if you are Liverpool Football Club, and it's about Alexander Isak. The situation of Alexander Isak and Liverpool and Newcastle in this love-hate triangle, however you might want to picture it. But I want to get your thoughts initially on the Alexander Isak situation, but in particular for what's transpired this week, because it has been a big week in this sort of battle for Alexander Isak. We know that Alexander Isak put his statement out on behalf, obviously, of himself, not being able to make the PFA Awards, but Newcastle United have hit back with their own statement, and we had a show. I'm sure you've been talking about it on the Anfield Wrap as well. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I actually haven't talked about it on the Anfield Wrap yet, in a bit of a funny way, the way the shows have gone.
Really?
So I actually haven't talked about the Isak statement anywhere other than very earlier on this afternoon, briefly for less than 60 seconds. I thought what he put out this week was a little bit unnecessary. Frankly, I'm not just saying that because I'm on a Newcastle thing. I've said it on our thing earlier on, in that what I think it did was, it was the sort of thing that I think has got backs up. Now, I think he wants to reference the fact that he's proud to be in the PFA Team of the Year. I think he wants to reference the fact that he's done that playing for Newcastle, but he also feels as though there's stuff that's been put out about him that he doesn't like. And I'm sure that, I don't want to say for a second that isn't true. I'm sure he feels that that's true one way or another, and wanted to sort of look to correct something there. But I think that, before that point, I felt that this transfer was going to come to a form of fruition next week. The other side of the game, get the game out the way. And then I think Liverpool and Newcastle come to an arrangement and say, this is what we're about and this is how it's going to be. Yeah. I feel as though it's the sort of statement which I think can be read by owners and even fans. I know that there's a lot of fans that don't like Isak at the minute. Anyway, up at Newcastle, perfectly legitimate. We've all gone through this as football supporters at some point. But it just felt a teeny little bit antagonistic to me. So I'm sure there's things that are out there that I'm sure there's hotly disputed truths in this. There's always in football a bit of he said. about stuff like this. What I think is reasonable to surmise from everything we've seen so far is that Isak and his representative feel as though they've made clear to Newcastle on more than one occasion last season that they wanted this to be his final season at Newcastle. What I think Newcastle's perspective is that you might have said that to us, but we did not come back to you and say, that's fine by us, we're going to sort that out. Yeah. And there may well be, it may well be that, in the most sort of blasé way, there may be a conversation that's been had between Isak and Eddie Howe, where Eddie Howe's almost been like, yep, I've heard you, Alex, we know what that's about, but we're going to resolve this in the summer. And what Isak's heard is, yep, I've heard what that's about, it's getting resolved in the summer, and that's the way in which it's going. And that's not the same as being made a formal promise, if you see what I mean. But Isak may well feel as though, listen, we had a conversation person to person, and I thought I put my point of view over, and I thought that you knew where I was coming from. And I think you can hear that at times as well in the way Howe's spoken, saying things like, it's a short career and all of this. And I think Howe would probably not like to have this at the moment. I feel a little bit like by putting that statement out, Isak's got to be careful not to get backs up amongst people, because everyone still needs to come to an arrangement around this, an arrangement that works for everybody. I don't think it's that complicated, an arrangement. Liverpool have already, I think, made clear they're prepared to A, break their own transfer records, B, break Newcastle's, and C, break a British transfer record. Precisely where that ends up in terms of balances of payments, in terms of what the overall headline figure is, what the add-ons are, which add-ons are plausible, which add-ons are implausible, which add-ons are he wins 2 Ballon d'Ors, we pay you £5 million, but which add-ons are he scores 50 goals for Liverpool, we pay you £5 million. Where all that ends up is, but I think that the two clubs may well have had an understanding that this is how this plays out from this point. Statements like that, I think, can only just be seen as a little bit antagonistic. So I don't want to say for a second, you wouldn't want him to play for Liverpool now. No, of course I would. I think he's obviously one of the best centre forwards on the planet at the moment. I think arguably the best goal scorer on the planet, plays for Manchester City, whether we all like it or not. He's unbelievable in front of goal. One of the best all-round attackers on the planet at the minute, plays for Liverpool. He plays right wing. Isak falls somewhere between those two sorts of characteristics. He's a great player. I want him to play for Liverpool. But I think that I think that my worry with that statement was that he's clearly an emotional guy. It's an emotional moment. We need to remember these lads are 25 years old. 25's not old. I say dickhead things all the time, and I'm 44. So we need to have a bit of awareness around that. But I'd rather he hadn't made that statement, because, as I say, I felt as though this ship was moving towards docking next week. And now it may well that might be the sort of thing that it might have a couple of people at Newcastle who might have been of the view, well, I don't like this, but I'll go along with it, beginning to go, well, I don't like this. Why should I go along with it? And then go from there. Someone just said there, why wasn't it reported during the season? Though it was. I mean, I hate to say it, but back in March, there was stuff there that, a couple of clubs, I thought he was going to go to Arsenal in March. I was of the view, having read stuff about Isak, I was of the view he was going to Arsenal in March. I didn't think he was going to end up playing for Liverpool. I was of the view he would end up going to Arsenal. I didn't think, he'd still be here. I thought there was a chance that with Champions League football, for Newcastle, he could be convinced to stay. But I spent much of last season thinking Isak's going. And one of the best reasons why, I genuinely want him to play for Liverpool is because I don't want him to play for Arsenal. In a way, on Monday night, whilst I think we haven't got enough attacking options on the bench, I'd rather Isak was playing for us. But I like the fact that he's not going to be playing against us, because I think he's great. But this is sort of where we all find ourselves now. And I'm quite, as I say, I was quite philosophical about it. I felt like it was moving somewhere. I'm now beginning to worry that it might not be.
Yeah, it's a difficult one for us. And to be fair, I think Chris, you'll agree as well. It's a very sort of balanced perspective there with regard to the Isak, because I have to say, Neil, and look, you get it in all fan bases. There's always the significant few that stand out more on sort of social media, and it seems to be that a lot of Liverpool fans are sort of backing this statement and fully behind it. So it's nice to see.
But it's reasonable if they choose to do that. That's down to them. As I say, I was just a little bit more, maybe because they didn't think it was coming, but also there's such a thing. I think. Well, I'll be clear about this. I'm sure I came on last year before we played each other in December, and I'll talk Liverpool up. But one of the things that will have been said last year around this time is that Liverpool weren't winning the transfer window. Winning the transfer window is nonsense. It is nonsense, because literally the only thing that you can win or lose happens on the grass. That's the case of it. But what I think transfer, and I want to be clear about this, I don't want to be snide. I get to go to loads of Liverpool matches, but only 60,000 people can watch Liverpool at Anfield. Only 4,000 or 5,000 people can watch Liverpool away from home. There's something democratic about transfers. We can all have our opinion on transfers. Wherever we are on the planet, we love our club, but we can all have our opinion on the way transfers work. So I don't want to act as though I'm being in some way, shape, or form snide. But I think there's a thing where I think people want to have the banter over the transfers and feel as though they're winning them. And it might be that some Liverpool supporters thought, well, this might not happen now. And then he makes that statement and they think the other way. It might be that some just want to stick the knife in. It might be that it's an online thing. You know, I've seen it full stop. At the minute, it's happening with Arsenal and Tottenham over Eze. Let's be clear about this. Eze could break his leg in his first training session. You know, he genuinely could. And then what are we all saying then? And how's that happen? Because the transfers matter, obviously, because recruitment's important. But until the football games are played, whether or not what you've done in the transfer window, you know, and how it goes doesn't really matter. Last summer we only bought Chiesa, and we went on to win the league, and we'd won it by the end of April. Yeah. You know, we could buy Isak this season and come third. It's you know, and trust me, I would rather win the league title next season without Isak than buy Isak and come third. Like if a genie turned up now and went, Neil, these are your options, I'll take the league title, thank you very much. So, you know, the football is the most important part. But what I think has started to happen, and it's not started to happen recently, because as I say, I've seen Liverpool supporters spend years where they felt like they're on the wrong end of it. You know, I have a thing that there's a lot of Liverpool supporters who live in Ireland, who live in Dublin. And if you live in Dublin, there's a lot of people who support Liverpool or Manchester United. And I think that makes it hard for a lot of the Irish Reds, because they go into work. This isn't even about social media, but so it's now spread to social media. And they'd be going into work when Klopp was manager, and Liverpool weren't buying anyone, and Man United were buying everyone, and then we'd go and get 90 points, and they'd come 8th. But whilst the transfers are happening, they're getting slaughtered in the office. There's loads of banter in the office. So this isn't even, I don't think, it's just not just a social media thing. I think when you put fan bases together and everyone decides they just want to wind everyone else up, this is what you get. But now we get to do it on a global thing through letters. I'm all for, and listen, why I'm looking forward to Monday is there's going to be loads of needle. The atmosphere is going to be right up, because the bit that matters happens on the grass. Yeah. So without Isak playing for either team, Newcastle could beat Liverpool on Monday night, at which point that Newcastle supporters, we walk out, should absolutely slaughter us. Of course they should, because that's the bit that matters. But if you don't get to have that bit because you live in God knows where, or you just don't know the right person to get you the tickets, then part of what gives you try being a Newcastle fan in Ireland, exactly. And for years going into the office and basically having everyone basically rub your nose in, you're going to be shit this season, you're not bought anyone, you've not done this. But now that's just happening on a global scale on social media. But it doesn't matter. And it's easy to say that, but it doesn't matter. The only bit that matters is the football. So I think that, you know, for me, but recruitment obviously does matter. And I do think one of my overarching points about the summer is I think that Newcastle have approached this window really poorly. I don't know how you've been talking about this, but on a structural level, I feel like Newcastle haven't had a plan for the window, haven't had preparation lined up for the window, and have left themselves, not just on the Isak issue, but I think Isak's a big part of it, constantly sort of trying to work out what on earth to do next, rather than have a genuine vision of, right, this is what we want to do, which is in complete contrast, I think, to 2022, when I think that what Newcastle did brilliantly on 2022 was they took risks on players that other clubs who were at that point higher in the food chain had looked at and gone, oh, we're just not quite sure. And Newcastle went, we're really sure, we love you, and we're going to make you the heart of our team. And they did that not once, not twice, but 5, 6, 7 times, and did a brilliant job of it. And that's why Newcastle win a trophy last season and get the Champions League places, is that period of recruitment. And it doesn't feel like Newcastle have got the same energy at the minute, where they're looking at players who are a little bit unfancied and making them feel special. A little bit unfancied and making them feel as though you're going to come and be part of our thing and it's going to be brilliant. Instead, it's late moves for X, or we've begun to have a conversation for Y. And I think that is massively a big part of this is the illness to the CEO. Let's be clear. So it's not just me sticking the knife in. It's terrible timing for that. But there's been a director of football who's disappeared. The previous director of football who did a great job for reasons no one understands. Broke his back to leave to go to Manchester United, and look how that's gone for him. But Newcastle can't go back to him now because there's a huge loss of pride there with the way in which it went. But there's not been a plan, I think, from Newcastle's point of view. Whereas I think Liverpool have had a plan. They always do. That's what they're about. That's the way in which, that's what they do. So if I was from a Newcastle point of view, my frustration would be, how do we address what's happened to improve our structure to make sure we do this better? Because the pitch should be, this is a team that's now 2 in 3 years Champions League qualification, has just won its first trophy.
Yep.
This should be a hugely attractive pitch at this point in time. And somehow, because I think these players, if you go for players that the big clubs who are as big as Newcastle or bigger, already want, they've been doing a long process of wooing these players. If you swoop in late, then I think you end up in a bit of a situation where those players are a bit like, well, we've been talking, like Ekatike is a good example. Liverpool, in the statement, I've been talking to Ekatike since January. Yeah. And they've done a long charm offensive, explained why be part of the project. This is what we're about. You've got to work on that. And I just don't think there's been anyone at Newcastle who's been doing that job properly. Hopefully, you get that fixed.
This is part of the problem. And look, Chris, we've talked about this for months and months and months with regards to Newcastle United, in particular this summer. And you're right, Neil. You know, from our perspective, the summer, for the most part, has been really poor, and it's because of the fact that we don't seem to have done our due diligence or properly to make sure that we've got the players. Like we have had long-term targets. For example, Anthony Elanga, who we did manage to get in, was a player that we tried to get last summer. James Trafford is one I think we're all really frustrated about, is that he was a player, if we'd have not had the PSR issue, would be playing for Newcastle United and would be number one already by now. But the problem is that when it came to doing the deal in this summer, we've dilly-dallied and we've hesitated, and it's allowed Man City to come in and show interest. And before we know it, they've taken it. But that's where the sporting director would have been able to come in and do things properly. And that's where it's really hurt us. We were on track to a really positive summer until 2 days after the season finished. And then as soon as Paul Mitchell walks out, regardless of whether people wanted him at the club or not, once he walks out and Eddie Howe is having to do 2 or 3 jobs in one, it makes it impossible to have the summer that we all anticipated. And that's what we're in now. This is where we are. The Isaac situation has just compounded everything and made it a million times worse. But we are slowly, Chris, I'll let you come on this. I feel like we are slowly, although it's back end of the window, we are slowly getting there in terms that we wanted, in terms of the caliber of player and the type of player, albeit might not be first choice. They are historical targets, and we are kind of getting there. Would you agree with that, Chris?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, my dad mates have been saying to me, where's these elite signings you were promising me? And I think, if we'd have got the João Pedro, if we'd have got the Ekatike, if we'd have got those types of players, then obviously we'd have that. And obviously we've been linked to Mark Gay. That didn't work out either. I agree with what, Neil said at the start. Like, it's almost like it feels like we've fished in a pond that maybe we've not done before. And I think it stung us, and not having the CEO and not having the director of football has kind of bit us, because obviously the negotiations haven't quite gone, down the path that we'd hoped. But in terms of sorting the window out, we are slowly but surely getting there. I mean, you only have to look at the signings we've made. They're not, wow, look at those players. But when you look at the players that have left and the players that have come in, there is an upgrade there. So I do believe that we have improved in terms of the squad. In terms of the starting 11, you could argue, Anthony Elanga and I think Malik Chow will be improvements on that starting 11. The rest have probably got something to prove, but it's about improving the players that we've got out. And ultimately, we've got to bring in that striker. We have to bring in that striker. And what that looks like, I don't know. I mean, Johan Visser, we've been chasing for a long, long time. And I know there was some updates yesterday and a little bit today. And I think once we bring in that striker, I think things will become a little bit clearer. It will obviously depend on what happens with Alexander Isak as well, because if we manage to keep hold of Alexander Isak for the season, you could end up looking back on the window and going, you know what, that wasn't too bad. But was it ideal? Has it been perfect? Far from it.
Yeah. Neil, you talked about, you gave your perspective on the Isak situation, but with 12, 11 days left of the window, with that statement coming out, and then Newcastle sort of replying with their own perspective on it, how do you see it now? Do you believe, because you mentioned, and you made a really good point, that you felt like Isak's statement agitated the ownership a little bit, and from a Newcastle perspective, from what we're reading and what we're hearing the same thing. We're hearing that the owners have really took a stand based on this statement. In fact, they they took sort of ownership of that statement and made it happen. We're reading today. So, do you think that there could be a softening of that approach between now and the end of the window, or are you of the opinion that this is not likely to happen?
No, I still err on the side I think it's going to happen, just about. I'm very 51-49 on it. But I think it will happen because I just think it makes too much sense for all parties, all three parties, for it to happen. I think that, you know, Newcastle ultimately now will find themselves in a situation where the value just does depreciate. And I think getting someone in, one, maybe two, I'm less convinced on Newcastle's need for two, solely because for instance, I'd love Anthony Gordon to come and play centre forward for us. Frankly, I think that's his future. He'll end up there at some point in his career, and I like him there. And if you look at what Paris Saint-Germain have just done, they've just won the European Cup without having a recognised centre forwards. They've got tons of movement and tons of pace. You know, I think that Gordon could work there. But I think that the squad would want there to be someone in who is a first choice centre forward. And given how high plays, I think that how plays, and that's perfectly reasonable. But I think it is the smartest possible move at this point, given the direction everything's gone, is that the clubs come to an arrangement that everyone's comfortable with. Everyone moves forward, and I suspect that will be Isak to sign for Liverpool at the end of this window. It may prove to be Isak to sign for Liverpool on the 1st of January. But either way, I don't think he finishes the season playing for Newcastle. I think he'll play for Liverpool in there. So that's where I am. But all of that said, I think what we've got right now is that Liverpool have, in a number of ways, again, this winning the transfer window thing, Liverpool have had a good transfer window from a recruitment point of view in terms of who they've got in. I don't think it's a good transfer window currently because Liverpool haven't got enough attacking options. It's as simple as that. Liverpool haven't got a bench at the minute. And
is it Isak or bust for you? Like, are there any other targets out there that you're looking at?
They won't buy another striker. Liverpool won't buy another striker. I think, you know, another unspoken part in all of this, and I understand why, because no one wants to sort of tread into the space, but I think that Liverpool went into the summer and they had two targets to play number 9, and one was Alexander Isak and the other one was Hugo Ekitike. And what happened is the tragic events with Diogo Jota. Yeah. It's as simple as that. And Liverpool then feel as though they need two forwards, two central forwards, because I think that they would have targeted Isak, possibly helped in some way, shape or form, very much in inverted commas, the Ekitike to Newcastle situation, and seeing that as this is how we're going to get Isak to Liverpool, or realised they couldn't get Isak out of Newcastle at the price that they wanted, and then gone and bought Ekitike and said, right, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to move forward with this. I think that what changes is when Jota passes away, Liverpool have got two forwards that they want. If they can't buy Isak at this point, Liverpool will not drop down a list. There will not be. I'll be amazed if, for instance, Mateta ends up playing for Liverpool. I just don't see it. Liverpool will wait. They'll wait to get Isak in January. They'll wait to get Isak next summer. That's what Liverpool will do. Liverpool will wait. That's what they've done in the past, and that's what they do. That's what they're about. But Liverpool also do need to replace Luis Diaz. Because they haven't replaced him yet. Yeah. So there's talk today, for instance, the Rodrigo thing appears to be heating up. I think if Liverpool can do Rodrigo, they will. The director of football for Fenway Sports Group is a long-term fan of Rodrigo. So I think that if Liverpool can do Rodrigo, they will, and he'll replace Diaz, and then effectively Isak replaces, whether you want to see it as Jota or you want to see it as Nunez. That's what Isak comes in if he comes in. If not, Liverpool may well then go and buy another wide player that they like. So that they've got 5 forwards. Ekitike is the purest number 9. If they manage to get someone like Rodrigo in, he can do stuff and bits playing through the middle. He's done it for Real Madrid in the past. And then from there, I think they'll go and get somebody else who they quite like who plays in wide areas because they won't want to block the pathway for Isak in January or next summer. I mean, Bill's just said there, Mateta won't leave Palace now. Eze is gone. No, honestly, Mateta was just it was the first name that popped into my head. I don't think that's real. Don't worry at all. But that's what I think. That's what I think Liverpool's direction of travel will be now. So I think that Liverpool will, independently of Isak, go and look to see who they can get that plays in wide areas, the strongest one that they can get, and then go from there.
Neil, what do you make of the 110 million verbal bid? Because I found that quite interesting. You know, in terms of we're putting this here We're not putting an official bid in, putting 110 there with the knowing that Liverpool were meant to be coming in with 120 million. That was what we heard, 120 million. Then they come in with the verbal 110. And also, what I want to ask you as well is, what are your opinions in terms of the price? If you believe that Alexander Isak is going to go to Newcastle, whether it be this summer or in January, what price do you believe will be like the sweet spot?
I think the price will end up being somewhere between what's being said is Newcastle's price and the 110. So I think it'll probably end up being about 125, with circa 15 million of plausible add-ons and 10 million of implausible add-ons. So Newcastle can say it's 150 million, and Liverpool will pay what they pay. Liverpool won't really PR it very much. Liverpool don't do PR. Some of the biggest nonsense that's come out of all of this is that Liverpool are doing X, Y, or Z for PR with their own supporters. Liverpool Football Club, in a transfer sense, do not give a fuck if I live or die. They are not interested whatsoever in PRing their own supporters. They've shown complete and utter contempt around that sort of thing for years. Liverpool will do what they want, and they're not trying to convince anyone of anything. They don't need to. They're the league champions. So Liverpool will not at any point do anything for PR with Liverpool supporters. They might do stuff for Newcastle's PR. They might do stuff for Alexander Isak's PR, but they will not do stuff for Liverpool's own PR with their own supporters. That's not how they operate. It's not how they've operated. Liverpool don't conduct a transfer policy to make Liverpool supporters happy. Liverpool conduct their entire transfer policy to do the best that they can to get the best players for Liverpool. That's it. So, you know, when that was written and that was briefed out amongst the Newcastle journalists, I couldn't believe it. Like, it's just not paying attention to Liverpool the way they've operated for years. So I think that ultimately, I think it ends up being about 125. As I say, 15 million of very plausible add-ons. That'll happen over the course of the first 2-3 years of the contract, and then some implausible stuff. But it means that Newcastle can go and say, well, we've got 150 million, and Liverpool will pay what they pay and won't be that bothered. As I say, won't be that bothered. They'll look. Liverpool's PR is always in the interests of Liverpool to the wider football world, and not to Liverpool supporters. So Liverpool are very eager to tell you that they won't accept an offer for this player, that player, this player. Liverpool are very eager to say that they set the price on what they sell for. Liverpool do this all the time, and then Liverpool live that reality. You know, this is it. Liverpool don't compromise on that reality. They very consistently say, if you like, Diaz is a really good example. For 2 years, there's been this feeling that Diaz is going to go. He doesn't like his contract at Liverpool, and he's going to go to Barcelona. And Liverpool's position has been Barcelona can't afford him, and Barcelona have never managed to afford him. But Bayern Munich got to whatever the magic figure is that I suspect was agreed between Liverpool and Diaz and his agent. And Bayern Munich put the magic figure down, and Liverpool therefore went, "Yep, okay," because that was what we said, and that's what Liverpool do. And there's no, you know, whatever Liverpool feel as though Isak is worth to them is what they'll pay. They paid what they thought Florian Wirtz was worth. Liverpool will pay what they think a player is worth, and that might end up being a significant sum of money. This isn't about driving prices down. Liverpool will go to what they think it's worth, and I suspect they already know what Newcastle will accept. I suspect that conversation's been had to some degree, and I don't think it'll be, as I say, it'll be a club record fee. It'll be a British transfer record fee.
To be fair, that's what a number of our journalists have been saying in the last couple of days. To be fair, is that actually it's not about the money. Like, if we got to the point where the two clubs actually sat around the table, that part of it would be done quite quickly, and that's the kind of that's the impression that they're getting from our side of things. But it's just a case of where the ownership sit at this point, and that's going to be the big thing. And that's why I asked you the question, so I wanted your perspective on it, because it seems like from our perspective and what we're being told is that the ownership aren't going to soften their stance between now and the end of the window. But that's why I wanted to know from your perspective, because it could it might not be over. A lot of Newcastle fans and reporters think it will be, and that's it, and he will be staying, and there will be maybe some.
Yeah, I just wanted to just comment here from Bill. Newcastle United is a stepping stone. So is Liverpool. So is Real Madrid. Players leave football clubs all the time, and the ego of this, I think, is entirely unnecessary. This summer, Trent Alexander-Arnold's gone from Liverpool to Real Madrid. Liverpool may well sell other players. Harvey Elliott may still go to Leipzig. Luis Diaz has gone to Bayern Munich. There are tons and tons of football clubs that are both stepping stones and destinations, and Newcastle are one of them, but so are Liverpool. And I think this is one of the wider problems, is that the ego in this, I think, and this is why I didn't like the Isak statement the other week, because it was the sort of thing that was going to bristle egos. the ego in this is always going to, is all entirely unnecessary. The job of a football club is to take its resources, take the existing squad it has, and every summer end up with the best possible thing it can have on the pitch. That's the job. And then to go from there. But within that, to accept that footballers themselves want to have a degree of agency. Now, people who want to be critical of Isak's agents, there's one thing I'm critical of Isak's agents about, which is don't sign fucking 6 years contracts without release clauses. You absolute divvy. Don't do that. And to all footballers who've been signing extended contracts because they think it protects them, it doesn't. Footballers should not be signing contracts longer than 5 years, as far as I'm concerned. It shouldn't be happening. I think it's a daft thing to do. Ekitike signed a 6-year deal at Liverpool. I don't understand why he's done that. I wouldn't do that. But footballers, they'll have their reasons for doing it, but I would always want there to be a release clause within there. Hugely, and that's what they should have. But all football clubs are stepping stones in a footballer's careers. And the best thing that you can do is if a footballer wants to go, genuinely wants to go, is understand that, have the long-term plan as part of that, feed that into your plan to make sure you come out of it stronger. You come out of it stronger. And that's the key. That's the key thing about all of this. And that's where I think, by the way, I still think that Newcastle could still come out of this stronger in the medium term. And also, I think it's also worth saying that the trajectory of Newcastle, Liverpool have sold players who they would like to have kept and will continue to sell players who they would like to keep. But it's just a fact of football that sometimes you've got to let players go. So Diaz, I think Liverpool right now, we would much rather have Diaz than have the money for Diaz. We'd be much better off, but he wanted to go. He wanted to get a new contract. He wanted to try somewhere else. He's been to a European Cup final with Liverpool. He's won a league title with Liverpool. He wants to go. He wants to go. I think the difficulty in amongst all of this is that fine line between accepting the players have agency on the one hand, and on the other, obviously protecting the clubs. But the best way to protect the club is to have the long-term planning.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think it's a fair perspective to have with regards to all footballers, and your point around stepping stones. I think it is a very, very valid point. I do want to ask you, because I know we haven't got you for long, around the game, because we've talked about everything else but the game. So we'll have a quick conversation on that. Now, what I did read today is that Jeremy Frimpong is going to be out until after the international break. I think he's got a hamstring problem. But in turn, I think Conor Bradley is back in training. Did Arne Slot confirm? Will he playing on Monday?
I don't know. I think that it's Monday. It helps. So we'll see. If not, Joe Gomez may be available at right back. We haven't had a first choice right back when we played you for ages, by the way. Joe Gomez may well be available at right back. And if not, I think they'll use Dominic Szoboszlai there.
Really?
So I think that they'll use Dominic Szoboszlai there. So it'll be...
Is Conor Bradley not back?
He might be, he might not be. He's not done that much. So we'll see. I think it'll be Szoboszlai there if Bradley isn't fit. Sorry, if Bradley and Gomez aren't fit. Liverpool haven't got a bench from an attacking point of view for this game. So, to talk about the game, but it is obviously impacted by the transfer chat. Liverpool have not got a sub currently in attack. It's Federico Chiesa. He just scored the winner the other night, but the manager won't trust him to play more than 15 minutes. So, I think from Liverpool's point of view, it's, that's one of the issues we're walking into here. And it is a concern. Newcastle have got subs. Liverpool haven't. Genuinely, this is it. It'll be the three that have started the games. If he goes with the front three, I think he might rest one of Ekitike, Gakpo, or Wirtz so that he has a sub to bring on 60 or 70 to change the game. I think he might do that and then play a slightly different system or play a different selection and go from there. But that's impacted by, because I think, for instance, he might choose to rest Wirtz, but he's got to therefore not be playing Szoboszlai on the right hand side at right back.
You're coming up against a really counter-attacking team with electric pace. You talked about Gordon. We've got Alanga in there. We've got Barnes or Murphy, whoever it is that could be playing on that left-hand side potentially. Do you think Arne Slot's going to change his game? Would he just go with what he knows to win the game, which could potentially exploit that counter-attack like Bournemouth did a couple of times at Anfield? Or do you think he's going to change tack to ensure that doesn't happen? Do you see him changing things in any way?
I think he might go what I call 4-2-4-0, where it's effectively no one plays number 9, and he might go Szoboszlai and Wirtz as both playing number 10, Salah right and Gakpo or Ekitike left. I think he may well do that and look to pick that side, and then no one effectively plays through the middle. That's what we did away at Aston Villa and Manchester City last February, and took 4 points from the 2 games. And then he'd have the option of bringing either whichever of Ekitike or Gakpo he doesn't start on off the bench. So Ekitike's done really, really well so far, but it wouldn't surprise me if maybe he looks at it and decides he wants to go with Gakpo left, Salah right, Szoboszlai and Wirtz, and just seed that centre-back battle, not put anyone in there, and then he's got Ekitike to either come on for Gakpo second half, keep the same approach, or he's got Ekitike to come on and play number 9 second half, change the approach if Liverpool are chasing the game. So yeah, I think there's every way in which this Liverpool are coming into this as a flawed outfit. It's worth saying. We do part of why last season went so well for us was we had 5 forwards. People could not like Darwin Núñez, but I thought that Núñez's contribution last season was as good. He was Liverpool's 5th best, but it was as good as the contribution made by Arsenal and Manchester City's 3rd best.
Well, we know firsthand his impact off the bench.
So Liverpool are weakened coming into this one big time. Liverpool, there's still business. It's odd to say, having broken a transfer record for Wirtz and done other bits and got the fullback sorted, but Liverpool currently, Salah was asked at the PFA Awards whether or not he thinks the squad's strong, and he says no, I think it's weaker, and he's right. He's right at the moment. Now, if Liverpool make 2 good signings between now and 3, because I think they need a centre-back as well. But if Liverpool make 3 good signings between now and the end of the window, the squad is manifestly stronger. It just turns on that sort of knife edge. But at the minute, I would rather be take the obviously emotion around the deep tragedy out of it. I'd rather be going to St James's Park with last season's attacking options than this season's attacking options. Because there's more of them, and then you can make your changes as you see fit as you go all the way through. So yeah, I think it's going to be a really difficult evening for Liverpool. The atmosphere will be great, but the atmosphere always is. It's not like the 3-3 last year. I was like, oh, St James's Park is quiet. The atmosphere was absolutely exceptional, and I'm expecting the same thing. The atmosphere is exceptional when Arsenal go to St James's Park, when Manchester City go to St James's Park. Might there be a little bit more edge? Yeah, but you can't get that much more edge. The atmosphere is always good at St James's Park. So, and for a night game even more so, bank holiday Monday night game, all the hits are there. So the atmosphere will be great. Will the Newcastle team be intense? Well, I just watched, I remember the League Cup final. The Newcastle team will be intense. The bullshit around the stuff with the sign and the transfer acts as though, would this be a walk in the park for Liverpool if they weren't trying to buy Isak? Absolutely not. No. We drew this game 3-3 last season, and I think that it's Man City drew, Arsenal got beat at this ground. So my attitude to it is that not getting beat's a good result. Winning is obviously a very good result, and you take that back and you go from there. But no one should be thinking for a second there's that under any circumstances. Really, I go back to the all the way back to 2019 when Benitez was manager. And Newcastle went anywhere near the force that they've been in the last 2 or 3 years. And all of a sudden, Solomon Rondon turned into peak Pele with Rafa Benitez as manager. And we needed an 86th minute headed winner that was a Saturday night in a bank holiday weekend. A flicked winner from Origi. And it was one of the maddest, most intense football matches I've ever known in my life. Genuinely thought I might pass away. We managed to get the win. But good God, it was absolutely horrendous, and the atmosphere was off the charts good that day at St James's Park. So Liverpool's footballers, if they're going to feel sorry for themselves, they need to pull the trousers up and not mess about. They're going to go to St James's Park, and it's going to be hard. Yeah, sound. That's what you expect. Just make sure it's hard for Manchester City and Arsenal as well.
I'm sure we will do our best. Look, I know we've called an extra 5-6 minutes out of you, so I will let you go. Just give us a prediction before you leave.
2-2, and everyone comes out feeling as though they've run a marathon.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, a yes or no on Mark Gay before the end of the window for Liverpool?
I was going to ask him that.
I'm beginning to think no. I'm worried that Glasner will say to Parish, I'm happy to lose one of Eze or Gay.
Yeah.
I'm not happy to lose both if you want me to try and win the Conference League. And I worry that they'll choose to hang on for the rest of to Gay for the season and lose him on a free, because what Parish won't want to do is lose Glasner. And I think that if you're Glasner, you may well be in a position to say, you're not giving me the tools to do my job. And the first big vacancy that comes out across Europe, I think Glasner's name will be really, really high on the list.
Yeah.
So what if you're Parish, you don't want. So I'm worried that by getting him when they have on Eze, Arsenal or Tottenham will spike our guns on Gay.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, he'll get to Liverpool in the summer anyway, so you'll get him. But Neil, it's been an absolute pleasure. We'd love
Thank you, everyone.
There's so many people in the chat that have just said
comments dead sound, by the way, so he's right. Great stuff. And I'm up in Newcastle on Sunday, so if anyone sees me Sunday, Monday, buy me a pint. I can't wait. I'm literally setting off for the match at 7 a.m. on Sunday morning, so we get to Newcastle for Bank Holiday Sunday at opening time.
Lovely. Well, you might see Chris up there because Chris is there for the weekend. So
I am. I might see you there, Neil.
See you later, everyone.
I'll be in the staff, mate.
Well, see you all later on. All the best.
Take care. See you later, Neil. Great to have Neil on. Always a really, really good chat. And look, this is why we bring this type of guest to Loaded Mag NUFC, because you see all the stuff on social media and the fans, and they can be very, very negative and back and forth. But it's nice to have just a genuine conversation, Chris, with a like-minded fan and someone that can talk on a balanced level, and it's not biased towards their own club. So great chat, wasn't it?
It absolutely was. It absolutely was. It's funny because whenever I associate with Liverpool, I'm always like this, all guns blazing, ready to go. And then everything Neil was saying, I was kind of like, yeah, it's quite sensible, that. And you almost like, you back down a little bit, don't you? And you think, well, it does make sense what he's saying. And, you know, as much as the only thing I'd say is I struggle. I do personally, as a Newcastle fan, I struggle to see us letting Isak go this summer because of the lack of replacements. However, Neil did counter that by saying, you know, it may happen in January as well. Now, it could. And we discussed this way back when, didn't we, Pete? And said that there could be a possibility where they go, right, just give us till January. Just give us till January, and we'll sort it out in January. And we get ourselves a CEO, we get ourselves a director of football, and we try and make do from now till January, and then hopefully we bring someone in, and then who knows? That's when the button could be released for Isak. But who really knows? And this is the thing, isn't it? It's been such a draining summer, hasn't it? It really, really has. Even before I finished playing football, and there was a screen on in the I don't want to call it a stadium, but you know where the footy was, there was a screen on, and they were talking about Isak again. And I was just like, oh my god, we've only got 11 more days of this. It's just never ending, mate. It's never ending.
You say that we've only got 11 more days in, but if he does end up staying,
I know we're going to get it in January.
It's good to even throughout the season. It's going to be he's looked a certain way in training, or he's looked a certain way in the match. Isak. It's going to be a continuous cycle of conversation if he does stay. Albeit some fans will think we got what we wanted because we've made him stay at the club, but it will mean that we are going to continue to have that conversation. But like you said, Chris, it was really interesting that you mentioned about the thought of getting him in January. And as you mentioned, sporting director and CEO could be in the house by then, but it also gives us 4 months to go and really search for our replacement of someone that we could get. So that is a really, really interesting point that he's raised. But
this won't go away, will it, Pete? This won't go away, because even if Alexander Isak stays after the 1st of September, and even if he signs a new deal, who knows whether he will or not, even if he signs a new deal, we as fans are all going to think, well, he's got a release clause in there. He's got a release clause. So we know Alexander Isak will leave Newcastle United at some point. I don't see him staying here for the duration of his contract, or certainly for longer than that. But for me, it's about us not being bullied and being bullied into selling a player because it suits the player and it suits Liverpool. That's always been the issue for me personally, because how often have we said over the last few weeks that, you know, this situation has been worsened by Alexander Isak's behaviour, and a lot of us fans have got to the point where we're like, we'd actually sell him. If we could bring in 2 players now, we'd probably be pushing them out the door. We'd be saying, we've got our replacements, off you go. So our stance as fans has changed, and I'm sure many in the chat as well. Nobody's sitting here saying we want to keep Alexander Isak because we want him to play for Newcastle United. We just want to keep him because we don't want to leave ourselves short, and we want to have a good season.
As you said, Isak was never going to see his contract out of Newcastle United. It just wasn't. Like, he'll be maximum here until the end of the season. Maximum. Like I said, Neil was given a good interesting perspective of potentially a January transfer. He could still go in this window. Today, and you might not have seen it, Chris, people might not have seen
I haven't seen
anything. Heavy links with Jurgen Strand-Larsen. Again, there was the Wolves reporters today that are saying that Newcastle are close to potentially an agreement, as close as 5 million in difference in valuation to Jurgen Strand-Larsen. So it looks like that Newcastle are looking in a different direction, and that Jurgen Strand-Larsen link could well be getting heavier as this weekend kind of draws in. So he could be the target, and he could be the one that we get instead of Wissa. Could it be Jurgen Strand-Larsen and Johan Wissa later on in the window? And there are 2 strikers that could release Alexander Isak. They might not be our ideal targets to have as an Isak replacement, but they might well be the ones that take us forward. Who knows? But it is interesting.
I think it's a great point you make, mate. And let's look back. A few years ago when we signed Chris Wood. We also, we signed Chris Wood from Burnley, and as a fan base, obviously we were pleased because we were in desperation mode at that point. Options were limited, and we wanted to try and weaken one of our rivals for a relegation spot. And obviously, when Eddie Howe took over, I think we all deep down were thinking, are we going to get out of this? Can we get out of this? And then we had obviously a fantastic transfer window, but then Chris Wood was then moved on, and that's not to say I'm not downplaying Jurgen Strand-Larsen before he's even put on a Newcastle shirt potentially. But even if we sign a player who we look at and think, do you know what, is he the answer? Is he the player who's going to kick us on and get us challenging for the top 4 year in year out? Who knows? He may surprise us. He may, or someone like Jurgen Strand-Larsen. I'm not saying it is him. But it doesn't mean it's for the here and now. We need to sort out the here and now. That's what we need to do. And as a club, we can kick on, we can move on. A lot changes. And Neil made a really good point, actually, didn't he, when he was talking about signing players, and just because a player leaves or just because a player signs, it doesn't necessarily guarantee anything. And that a player can get injured, a player can be out of form, a player can not suit a system, a player can not be settled. There's lots of different factors, isn't there? Absolutely. And look, wouldn't it be fitting, certainly from a Newcastle perspective, that if they did sign Alexander Isak and he did his groin or he did his thigh, those 2 injuries seem to be reoccurring for Alexander Isak, and he's out for months on end, and they don't see him kick a ball until January anyway. That would be very, very fitting from that point of view. Just on the Jurgen Strand-Larsen, there is rumours that Newcastle are looking to bid, and may even bid tonight, 55 million. Apparently Wolves are looking at around 60. Interestingly, there is noise from the Wolves section that their owners are willing to sell, which is why I think Newcastle have been given confidence on this. And the reason being is because, and this is what Wolves fans are worried about, is that they will take the money with them and go. So that money won't be reinvested, which is why I think there's a chance that Newcastle could actually get this deal done. So maybe that is the one that we're going to see. But we'll come to that because there's another show for that. I just want to bring up, Chris, the share screen, because what we didn't get to do was the tactics board. we did. It was funny, Pete. I completely forgot. It was just like another fully loaded transfer show talking about Alexander Isak, and then you said we haven't had time to talk about the game, and I was thinking, oh my god, 35 minutes. We haven't even got to the game.
We didn't even get to the game, but what we can assume by the the lineup that he talked about. So
yeah, it was very interesting what he said. So
um,
I would never have said Zoboslai at right back. I would never have said that. And there's a Liverpool fan in the chat. I forget your name. Sorry, whoever that is. But he agreed with Neil and said, "Yeah, I think Zoboslai will play right back," which really surprised me. I wouldn't have thought that was an option. I just assumed it would be Conor Gallagher or maybe Joe Gomez.
well, Conor Bradley is only
Conor Gallagher, Conor Bradley. Yeah,
Conor Bradley is, from what Onslaught said today, I think he only had his first training session back today, so he's only just back into training. So they might not want to risk him for that. And I think it's the same with Joe Gomez. They're not sure he can play a full game. So looking at the rest of the team, they're thinking
Gravenberch will come in, and then the other holding midfielder. Yeah, probably McAllister, because he was talking about playing 4-2-4, wasn't he? Or was it 4-2-4 non? He was saying about not playing the striker.
I don't know why it says Alistair. I have wrote his name properly, but it does this where like if the name's too big, it just cuts it out and just gives the last part of the name. So ignore that. It is McAllister. They've obviously got Salah out right. Did he say sort of a zero?
Yeah, 4-2-4-0. He was saying. So he was basically saying we won't play with a striker, and the 4 will, take turns going up. I think that's what. And he seemed to think that Ekitike or Wirtz wouldn't play. They'd be put on the bench, which again is interesting. I'm trying to think who the other options would be.
So it would be Gakpo,
Gakpo on the left. It would be Gakpo on the left, I think.
Gakpo on the left. All right.
So then, who would his attacking midfielders be then? Who else have we got in attacker? He's not going to play Chiesa. He said that because he doesn't trust him to play over 15 minutes. Yeah, and then maybe like a keep going along. Is there anybody else there? So it won't be Wataru Endo.
Because these are the attacking players. Curtis Jones.
I see what he means about not having any attacking options, because
they've got Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones. They're not amazing attacking threat,
and he won't start. Do you know what, Pete? I mean, I could be wrong here, but it would just make sense, doesn't it, to play Ekitike and play a 4-2-3-1? You would think.
Yeah.
But then, as he said, they've got no attacking up. There's no backup, is there? Because the only light then is to bring Curtis Jones on.
Once those players tire, you'd want to bring someone on to try and affect the game, or if the game's not going the way they want, they'd want someone to come in, like he said, like a Diaz or a Nunes, and they've not got either of them. Harvey Elliott can nick a goal here and there, but he doesn't always have the same effect coming off the bench for Liverpool. Curtis Jones, centre midfield, maybe. Chiesa obviously scored in the cup final, so he scored on Friday as well, so he has a knack. So there's maybe a couple of options, but it's clearly not their favoured options and ones that have got full confidence in. But we'll leave that team up there. We'll leave that one up.
Do you think he because he has done it before, hasn't he? Do you think he'd play? Do you not think he'd play Curtis Jones at right back? I'll keep an eye on the chat and see if any Liverpool fans agree with that. But I'm sure Curtis Jones has filled in at right back, and then that would mean at least they've got Zoboslai to come on, haven't they?
But potentially, when he said about right back and he mentioned about Zoboslai, I thought he'd play Endo there, because I'm sure Endo played there for a little bit as well. So you've got Endo and you've got Curtis Jones as a potential option, but
do you remember, Pete? Do you remember? It was the first game of the season, wasn't it, against Bournemouth? He brought on Endo for Frimpong, and he brought on Robertson for Kirkes, and he had to swap Endo pretty quickly because Endo was getting absolutely rinsed on that right hand side. He popped Endo right back, and it failed miserably.
That's probably why he's saying it. So that's interesting. So he's obviously looking for someone with a little bit more physicality in there.
Someone in the chat's just said Endo won't play at right back 100%.
Okay.
So he's tried that.
So we'll stick with what Neil says with that right back. So we'll leave that 11 up there. because I think I know we mentioned about Ekitike or Wirtz being dropped. They might go from more of a solid midfield and maybe bring Jones in or Endo in and maybe have a three across the back. So it could well be. We'll do this really quickly. It could well be something like this, where they have like a 4-3, a 4-3,
4-3-3.
three,
Yeah.
Sort of like that. But Wirtz is the false nine, or as he talked about, they'll play with a 0, no striker, and they'll play him as sort of a midfielder that will pop up in the little pockets. Salah will make those runs inside, and so will Gakpo, and then they might go with Ekitike later on. So there's a potential of that. But let's focus on Newcastle for now. Like, what do you think the team will be? Will it change in your perspective from Villa? What you go with, mate?
Right. I always, do you know what? I always struggle at this point because I always think, do I pick what I think Eddie Howe will pick, or do I pick what I think? And do you know what, Pete? I'm so tempted. Do you know what? I'm gonna put. We've had this conversation, and I'd love to hear people in the chat as well. I would love to see this formation I'm about to put out. I would love to see it because I think, for me, Pete, I think Eddie Howe's got to do something different. I do, because I don't believe. I know Neil said that he felt like, you know, Gordon will eventually play through the middle, and to be fair, Anthony Gordon said that himself, didn't he? But I would love to see Anthony Gordon on the left. I would, particularly if they're having struggles at right back. But tell you what, let me just put it on and we'll discuss through it. So, Nick Pope in goal.
Yep.
And I think we're going to play with 5 at the back or 3 at the back, depending on how you see it. So I'm going to say left-sided centre-back, Dan Burn.
Yep.
I'm going to say right-sided centre-back. I'm going to say right-sided centre-back, Malik Chow.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And I'm going to say predominantly centre-back, Fabian Schär.
Oh, I had Botman in there.
Yeah,
wow.
mate. I don't think, given the choice, Pete, I would have Botman. I'm not convinced that we would take a risk on Sven Botman's fitness. I think he needs to be 110%, as in ready to rock and roll. And I just don't know. Whether Sven Botman's going to be ready. I'm just not convinced.
I'm just going to tell you, he was pictured training without any protection on his knee.
Oh,
yes.
Right. Okay, well, I haven't seen that.
That was yesterday. I think he put it on Instagram.
Right. I'm gonna switch it up, Pete. I'm gonna switch it up. Put Fabian Schär right centre back.
I planted that seed, Chris. Just because.
You planted it, and that's what I want to see, Pete. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Fabian Schär right centre back.
Okay.
Take Malik Chow out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I'd have gone for.
Yeah.
That's the back three I'd have gone for.
I would dearly love to see Lewis Hall at left wing back, but again, I don't see it happening. I think it will be Tino Livramento at left wing back.
Yeah. Did a job on Salah last time?
He absolutely did. And I think he will pose a lot of questions as well.
Yeah.
Right wing back, I think, will be Kieran Trippier.
Yep.
Now, and I'm basing this, Pete, off what I saw. In Newcastle's game against Villa. So I'm going to say, and I think Newcastle will want to dominate. I think Newcastle will want to dominate the midfield, and I think we're more than capable of dominating the midfield. So I'm going to say, Pete, left-sided centre mid, Joe Linton.
100%. There he is.
Right-sided centre mid, Bruno.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say Tonali in that holding position. Tonali's job in this game will be to stop Florian Wirtz. and stop those gaps appearing. You know, obviously, I'm sure Cody Gakpo will be cutting in. Mo Salah, we know, loves to cut in because he loves to get on his left foot. I think Sandro Tonali's job is just going to be to sweep up in that area. And obviously, the defenders, because we're playing 3 at the back, 5 at the back, they're going to be pushing forwards. They're going to be pushing out. And then I'm hoping that because the defence line is higher, that will mean that Sandro, Joe Linton and Bruno will push further forwards up the pitch. So that's what I'm going with that. Now, in terms of attack, I'd like to see Anthony Gordon as a left forward and Anthony Elanga as a right forward. That's what I'd like to see. And I feel harsh on Harvey Barnes, because some people will say, you know, they'd like to see Jacob Murphy in there as well. But I think with Liverpool coming up against Liverpool, I think the idea is to stay tight at the back and try and counter them as best we can. I fully expect the likes of Joe Linton and the likes of Bruno to get up there and support Gordon and Elanga. And I think Tonali's job will literally just be to sweep up and just make sure that we're not too exposed. Not forgetting Tino Livramento and Kieran Trippier, any opportunity, get forward. That's the team I would pick.
This is I'm pretty sure that I had this conversation with Daz the other day, and this is the exact team that I would want to play against Liverpool. I'm not going to change anything on that, because I think this is the team that Newcastle United have to play if they want to beat Liverpool on Monday. If they want to cancel out Liverpool's threats, if they want to hit Liverpool in areas that they can hurt Liverpool, this is the exact team that I want to see on Monday night. Absolutely. You could tweak it, and you could, and I gave the other option of doing this. Joe Linton tends to play
5-2-3.
and you could play those two there. But actually, I wouldn't. I would play Joe Linton in the midfield. I'd have the midfield 3 as they normally are, as they normally operate, because with these two, they're so quick, they're lightning quick, and they'll be excellent and frightening on the counter that you could almost have these two doing the job themselves, and we just keep as a set. You could have Livramento getting up there as an extra, but Trippier sit back in and stop the counter that way. And then Joe Linton comes in and sits on Salah if there is a counter attack, or vice versa. You have Livramento sitting in. Joe Linton can get into that, because remember, he's effective in that left-hand side as well. He can get forward into that area, but you know, you've got Livramento sitting in, protecting him. And at all times, we could be almost like a 4. You know, you've got the option then of Shaw doing what Shaw does best, coming in into that little pocket and being like this at times in the game, which allows Bruno to then dip into these positions and try and get forward, or certainly play the balls forward for the likes of Elanga. There's so many possibilities.
I think we play a high line, Pete. I really do. I think we play a high line. I think we push Liverpool back. I don't think we will sit.
Especially if they don't play a Ekitike up front.
Yeah.
Because playing without a striker actually would fit into this system perfectly. It would allow Newcastle United to be more attacking and be more direct. And what it does is that it asks Arne Slot a different question. In the cup final, they couldn't handle us man for man 4-3-3. You can bet that Arne Slot is coming up with a plan to stop that 4-3-3 man for man intense football. So let's throw him another curveball. Let's throw him a tactic and a formation that's something a little bit different, something that they're not expecting, but something that we know we can execute against the bigger and best teams. This formation will force Liverpool onto us, but what it does, it exposes their weaknesses with the electric pace in and behind.
Exactly.
Elanga will leave Van Dijk for dead. Gordon will absolutely commit Konate. You could put on a bet right now. Gordon against Konate. Konate's getting booked at some point during the game. You can guarantee it that it's going to happen at some point. Yeah. And so what it allows us to do, it allows us to do what we do best, but it allows us to stop them from doing what they do best. So for me, this is the formation. This is the one that I would go to 110%. This is the formation for me.
Yeah. No, I agree, mate. And I think playing the two up top, playing Gordon and Alanga, not traditional forwards, obviously, and we know that, and we know that we need the forwards. And if we had the likes of Alexander Isak or Johan Vissa or whoever it may be, you would push those two lads onto the wings. But because we haven't got that option, I just believe that putting Anthony Alanga and Anthony Gordon on Konate and Van Dijk, they're going to be pushed forward. They're going to try and get Liverpool forward as much as they can. And constantly they're going to be looking over their shoulders and they're going to be thinking, if this ball goes long, if this ball goes over the top, those lads are going to run. And if they're positionally, if they're not ready, for the turn of foot, if they don't stand off Gordon and Alanga, if they get a run on them of 2 or 3 yards, it's over. It's over. And it's good. That's what's going to be so key. And I think by playing those two up top, Liverpool will naturally sit deeper. And if Liverpool sit deeper, that allows us to press forward. And then you will nullify the danger of the likes of Florian Wirtz. And then hopefully, because Liverpool are pushed back and Newcastle are pushed forward, it also limits the space that the likes of Salah and Gakpo can operate in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all for it. You know what? The bit that we've not even talked about properly is the options off the bench.
Yeah.
So, Jacob Ramsey's now in there, number 41. Harvey Barnes off the bench. Joe Willock's back in training. Whether he'll be used for that game, but you got Lewis Hall, you got Malik Chow that I think would definitely come on later on for Shah here.
Yeah.
In that back
you can get his debut. Yeah.
So you got a like for like in there. Lewis Hall potentially for Livramento or Trippier comes off. Tino comes over to here. Hall goes on the left hand side, and you've got the subs there that actually can just allow this formation to continue. If you're bringing Alanga off, you've got Barnes on the counter attack who's frightening and got a great finish on him. Jacob Murphy can play that role if he wanted to. Coming on here, he could come in for Trippier here. You've got options all over the pitch to bring on and affect the game. And something that Neil talked about that I thought was really, really interesting, Chris, and I'm so glad that he brought it up in that situation, is that we have strong options off the bench when they don't. That could be the difference in this game. Jacob Ramsey coming on later on in the game if Joe Linton's been given his last warning because he's put Szoboszlai up in the stands for the 50th time and he's being told no more or you're getting sent off. You take him off, you bring Jacob Ramsey on. Jacob Ramsey, electric quick, can travel long distances with the ball, pop up in the box. He's still a threat. He's going to be buzzing. It's his first game at St. James's Park and against Liverpool. You're going to get a good performance from him. It just fits really well. And I pray and hope that formation and that setup and that lineup is exactly how we do it, mate.
And you know what, Pete, as well, going back to what Neil said, if we see a Florian Wirtz or if we see a Hugo Ekitike on the bench and Liverpool spring a surprise, it's at that point, like you mentioned with Fabian Schär, if Hugo Ekitike comes on at 65, 70 minutes, that could be when you take Fabian Schär off and you bring on Malik Chow. And the instruction is keep an eye on Hugo Ekitike because we know, pace-wise, Malik Chow will stand up against Hugo Ekitike.
Absolutely. So for Loves Green says, I'm not a Newcastle fan, but I am one this weekend. Beat Liverpool and stick these at the reserves for the year. I love the support for us on Monday. Yeah. Anyway, that's a good one. No, Ramsey can't play up front, Simon. He'll come on left midfield, as you probably are already aware. But that just shows the desperation for a striker. We need a striker. Probably won't get one now, but in time for Monday. But we've still got more than enough to win the game. And that was what Neil said when he came on. He made that point too.
Yeah.
He said we've got more than enough. Any other comments, questions before I get your predictions, mate, before we wrap?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, a quick one from Who Knows 56. Thank you very much, Who Knows, for being a member for 25 months. Why not? Mate, yeah, do you know what? I've seen it. I put this in the chat, didn't I? And I said your boy, Victor Boniface, alone with well, sorry, it's an obligation. It's not an option, is it? But an obligation to pay 26 million pounds?
Yeah, it was under 30. Yes, 30 million euros, I think it was. 30 million euros, so around that. Would have been a good signing. Would have been a good signing.
It was. Especially when you're talking about bringing in a Strand Larsen or a Visser, and you're talking upwards of 40-50 million, and you think Victor Boniface just take a risk. And this is what we've constantly said, Pete. There's probably a lot more to it, and maybe there's a lot more research that's been done. But you go for 26 million, even if it doesn't work out with Victor Boniface because of his age, you think, well, even in like a year, 2 years time, you probably get the majority of it, if not more, back if you wanted to move him on.
I think it might be it might be that he doesn't pass the no dickheads policy. That might
possibly.
But we'll see. Thank you for the membership anyway. Great stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much. Love this from Tony and the Revenge of the Crew, Nam 108. He says, Pete, loved your Sky performance the other day. You take no prisoners. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, because they're just messing around with these questions, and I just wanted to get to the point. Charlie Austin, to be fair, was fine, but the other presenter just kept cutting in all the time. I know you talked about it, Chris, with me.
Yeah,
privately, just kept cutting in all the time. Just I wanted to emphasize the point that I was proud of the club for this statement, backing our club and our ownership for how they've handled this Isaac situation. And yeah, I managed to get it in the end eventually, but it took me way too long to get to that point. But yes, I will continue. If I ever get asked to go on again, I will continue to make sure I emphasize my point on that. Make sure I do.
Good man.
Just give me 30 seconds, Chris. Carry on. I've just got to let the daughter in from football training.
Yeah, no, don't worry, mate. Don't worry. I'll gab along. I'm pretty good at gabbing. So somebody says here, the Clon lad, Liverpool linked with Rodrigo. Would that put any Isaac transfer to bed if that happens? Yeah, it's an interesting question, the Clon lads, because for me, I don't believe it would. I would like it to, but I don't believe it would. And I think Neil said earlier, didn't he, that they're looking to bring in a left winger and a striker. The only recognised striker at the moment is Hugo Ekitike. Now, we know Cody Gakpo can play as the striker, but I think Liverpool are looking for a forward and a winger. So, no, sadly, I think even if Liverpool were to get Rodrigo, I still think they'd go for the striker anyway. But I'll tell you what, wouldn't half make them stronger than what they already are. Do you agree with that, Pete? Do you think Rodrigo, if Liverpool were to get Rodrigo, that it would put the Isaac transfer rumour to bed? I've said I don't think it would. I think they want a winger and a striker.
Yeah, Neil did say they wanted both.
Yeah.
How much that would cost all in is clearly they've got the money to do it. But I don't think it would put it to bed. But I think it would probably ease their need or desperation for Isaac, because Rodrigo can play on the left. Gakpo can play up front. So what they might do is just shift that along. So they'll put Rodrigo on the left. They'll have Gakpo and Ekitike as options down the middle, and they'll cover it that way. They'll make it work until January, which may well be, if they don't get Isaac then, they might go back in for him in January or look at another option. So yeah, that's kind of how I see that way.
Yeah. Amu says, I felt there is an acceptance from you guys from 2 days ago. Yeah, I think he's talking in reference to Alexander Isak. I think as a fan base, we're accepting the fact that he's not going to stay. We know that he's not going to see his contract. We know that he wants to leave. He's made that perfectly clear, and obviously now we've heard the statements as well. I just think from a Newcastle perspective, for me, I'm just looking out for the club. I'm looking out for the season, and it's got to be right for Newcastle United. What was interesting, I thought, Pete, was Neil seemed quite relaxed over the fee. Neil didn't seem to think the fee would be a problem in terms of, if Newcastle United won 150, then Liverpool probably will reach that 150 mark. How that looks in terms of add-ons and stuff, I don't know. But that's why I asked him about the 110, because I found that really strange, the 110. I couldn't really get my head around that. But what are your thoughts on Amu's comment about an acceptance from us?
You know what it felt like? I mean, look, yeah, you're right. I mean, to be fair, the acceptance on Alexander Isak's been there for me since he didn't turn up for the tour. At that point, I'm like, yeah, he's gone. Like, and in my mind, he's gone because he's disrespected the fans, player, club, manager, all the rest of it. So my mind has been gone. The acceptance of him leaving was then. I think the acceptance overall has been there for Newcastle fans for a lot longer. We thought we'd get another season out of him and he'd go next summer. Nobody ever thought that he would see out his contract for 3 years anyway. But yeah, there's an acceptance now that he's gone regardless, and that's absolutely fine. But yeah, there was I've lost my train of thought now. There was the other point that you made, and I can't remember what he mentioned. But yeah, going
about the price and the 110.
Yeah, so I got the feeling from that they put that bid in because there was a lot of noise for 2 or 3 days in the build up to that they haven't even put a bid in yet. They don't want him because they've not even put a bid in. It was almost like they've just put a bid in to say that they've bid. You know, like there's no intentions of signing him, but the bid's there, so no one can come back and say that they hadn't bidded for it. That was the kind of impression that bid I got from that bid. That it wasn't serious. It wasn't serious that they actually wanted him. That was kind of where I was on that exact situation. But
yeah. Quick one here from DJ Android, and he says, "Can you guys collab with Matty from the Magpie channel?" DJ Android, we have Matty on the channel quite often. And we also do a yearly charity game, and we play in a charity five-a-side with Matty. Matty has represented loads of Mag very successfully. But yeah, good friends of the channel, Matty, and yeah, we often review his content and stuff, which is always fantastic. But yeah, we do a show, don't we, Pete? Talk of the Tune. And we haven't done one for a while, and maybe we need to do one once this transfer. Oh, is it coming?
I would imagine during the international break.
Yeah.
Transfer window's done. International break. We get a chance to breathe. We'll bring the boys back on. So Johnny will be back on. Johnny Greenwood. We'll bring Matty back on. We've had Rubenstein on before. We'll try and get him back on. Specs, of course. We'll try and bring the boys back on. Adam P's been on before as well. We'll sort out a talk for two. Absolutely, and we need to sort out a journalist special talk for two. We'll try and get the Geordie Journos back on for a special. We'll get all three boys on. Don't rule out them joining us before the window closes either. We're working on it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then last question here, Pete. From the Clon lads, and this surely is for anyone who enjoys a flutter. This surely is a very, very good bet. Clon lad says, "What time does Joe Linton get booked?"
It's a great question. People, get your times in. Get your times in. Oh, Joe Linton gets booked in the 35th minute.
Oh, close. DXL, he said about the 30th. Oh, we are before 30 minutes. 3 minutes.
No, not 3 minutes, because
18 minutes.
Game otherwise.
Minutes. Do you know what I think? Do you know what I think it'll be? I had it in my head. I think it'll be around the 60-odd minute mark, and the reason I say that is because I think he's going to be. He'll put himself about. Don't get me wrong. But I think it'll be around the 60-minute mark, and he'll leave one on someone, and then it'll be at that point that Eddie Howe and Jason Tindall will go, Jacob Ramsey, time for Jacob Ramsey's debut.
That I would love that. I would love for that to happen. Whoever he's up against, a Soboslai or someone, Mo Salah, like he's done his work. We're 2-0 up, fingers crossed at that point, and he knows he's about to be subbed, so he just goes in and just absolutely just clatters him, and then just waves goodbye. And then he's off.
Do you expect a red card, Pete?
No.
There's a history in recent times, isn't there, in the Liverpool games?
There is. I'm saying no, I don't, because I don't want one. I don't want it to ruin the game. Certainly from our perspective. I mean, if they're going to give one to Liverpool, then I'll take it, you know. But I don't want it to affect us in any way, shape, or form, because, you know, the reason why I say no is because, you know, remember the red card for Van Dijk? We thought, oh yeah, it's going to help us massively. It didn't. We ended up losing the game. I don't want it to do that, because if someone gets sent off for Liverpool and they go back into almost like a low block and sit in, that's no good for Newcastle.
No.
So I kind of want it to be 11 versus 11, so that we can exploit their weaknesses, so we can hit them on the break, and we can't have it as not that we can't have it as an excuse, but we just don't want it to impact the game, so we can't win and do what we want to do. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, Joe, Irish Assassin's on it as well. It just wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. To coin a phrase, says get True Geordie on. We haven't had Brian on for a while, have we? And hopefully, I mean, he's incredibly busy at the moment, isn't he, Pete?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I speak to Brian a fair bit, and I'm always asking him, you know, any chance you could pop on. Where we might get him on is around Champions League. But
we did last time, didn't we? It was PSG.
Yeah. Dortmund, I think.
Oh, was it Dortmund?
I think it was the Dortmund game. Or was it Dortmund? Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
was it Dortmund?
Either Dortmund or PSG. One of the.
Yeah.
But he, as you just said, Chris, Brian's incredibly busy at the moment. Not only is he doing brilliant stuff on his channel, and if you haven't checked it out, check out the stuff that he does, particularly on Newcastle. You know, some really, really good opinions there, and he keeps an eye on the channel, on Loaded Mag and UFC. He does keep an eye on what we're doing, but hopefully he'll be back on at some point. We'll get his Newcastle United perspective on that. We'll see.
Absolutely. And then last question, Pete. Last question. And again, it's from Tony and the Revenge of the Crew. Tony asks, "Are we booing Ekatike?" I'll tell you my perspective. I don't think we do boo Ekatike. I don't want to give Ekatike any. I don't want us to give Ekatike any kind of acknowledgement. For me, I don't boo it, because then I think if we boo him, it shows you know, that we're bothered. And I'll be honest, I as much as I rate Ekatike, and I think Ekatike is a good player, and I think he would have been good for Newcastle, I don't want to spare him on in any way, shape, or form.
I'm not fussed. I don't see a point in booing him. I really don't. Like, if Liverpool hadn't have come in, he'd have signed for Newcastle United.
Yeah, he would.
It wasn't like he's rejected us and gone, yeah, I ain't signing for them. we bid, it got rejected. Liverpool bid, it got accepted. We left the table after that first bid getting rejected. It wasn't that he chose Liverpool over us. We walked away. So there's no point in booing it. But yeah, you're right. You don't want to give anyone any ammunition. Liverpool have already given us enough ammunition to go off and really go at Liverpool and try and win the game. We've given them enough, or they've given us enough ammunition. We don't want to give them any ammunition at all. That's where I see it anyway.
Yeah, Pete. Very last question, and because I think it's a really good question. You may not agree, but it's a relevant question, is what I would say, and it comes from Luke Howell. Thank you very much, Luke. Luke says, "Quick one. Would you guys consider bringing in the likes of Danny Ings or Vardy, free agents with experience, just to help with the upfront issue, even as a stopgap?" I think it's a fair comment, because, you know, we've seen other clubs do it. Do I particularly want to bring in Danny Ings or Jamie Vardy? Not really. But I think it is a relevant question in terms of it's a short-term fix. Should we be looking at somewhat? For me, Luke, my answer would be no to those players, but I am so open for a loan. It's untrue. I think there's an opportunity there to bring in a striker on loan with an option. I know Eddie Howe is allegedly not keen on loans, but I think desperate times call for desperate measures, and what I want is bodies in the squad. So for me, I would look at a loan. But what about you, Pete?
Danny Ings, no, not at all. To be fair, it's no to both of them. I'll be honest. No, I don't want either of them at Newcastle United. The only way I would even remotely, slightly consider Jamie Vardy is well after the window's shut. If we go for a window, we've got no options at all. We don't get our signings in, and then we say we get an injury, for example. That's when I would consider maybe bringing him in. Like at that point, and it'd be only Vardy, definitely not Ings, but not whilst this window's open. No consideration for either of those at all. Apparently, he's going Napoli. Is he going Napoli? I did see something whilst we were alive.
Napoli just take all. It feels like they just take all the Man United players who don't work out. So on that basis, Højlund will join Napoli, and he'll be absolutely fantastic based on Scott McTominay's season.
Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. He's got something to prove. He knows the Italian league. He's at a far better organised club if he goes to Napoli. Yeah. Not for me.
Yeah. But that's it for the questions. And I do apologise, by the way, to everybody in the chat if I didn't get to your questions earlier from Neil. Neil's incredibly busy as well, so we didn't have opportunity to ask him all the questions we wanted, but obviously we wanted to hear his thoughts on Alexander Isak, a little bit on the game, the formation, injuries and stuff, so apologies if we didn't get to your questions for Neil, and hopefully next time he's on we can try and squeeze some more in.
Absolutely. We're definitely getting Neil back. We might even get him back towards the end of the window. If not, we'll be getting him back for when we have the next fixture. What's that in relation to?
About us not getting to the questions.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, it is what it is.
It is.
We only had a select time with Neil. He's extremely busy.
Yeah, he is.
And he stayed a little bit longer with us.
He did. I think he said initially like 25, 30 minutes, and we were gone for 40. So yeah. But Pete, just before we wrap up, I just want to say, and we haven't said it yet, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for tuning in. We really, really do appreciate it. Great numbers in the chat. We've got 360 people in the chat. It's much appreciated for our second away days of the season. But yeah, if you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. It does help us share the show far and wide, and it is much appreciated. And obviously, if you're watching us for the first time, and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. We're on the march. We've gone past. Have we gone past 33k now, Pete? Have we passed 33k?
Not quite. I'm just going to check now.
What are we on?
We're 31.5 nearly.
Oh right, okay. I'm going ahead of yourself.
4.5, but we're on the road to 33k. That's what
we are. So yeah, so if you haven't already hit that like, please do. I think our mods in the chat are always excellent at reminding people. It is much appreciated. If you minimize the show now, you can actually click the little fun button. But as I say, it would be much appreciated. And Genius has just reminded me we're 10 likes away from 150. So thank you everyone who's already done it. Really appreciate it.
There's 10. Come on, people. You know it makes sense. Look, Chris, before we leave, your match prediction.
Of course, yeah. I haven't given my match prediction. Do you know what? When Neil gave his, I was thinking in my head 1-1. Do you know what? It sounds bizarre saying this, and for considering our record against Liverpool in the Premier League isn't great, and I've witnessed the vast majority of them. Yeah, I think it'd be 1-1. I think I can't see us. I'm going to put it out there now. Might end up with egg on my face. I cannot see us losing this game. I do not think we will lose this game. I think there's a lot at stake. I think the atmosphere is going to be electric. I think Newcastle will give the ball. But I do believe, you know what, if we had a striker up top, I'd probably go for the win. But because we haven't, And there is still that risk that we play a similar formation to what we did against Villa, and we look a little bit toothless up top. I'm going to say a draw. But yeah, I don't think we get beat. What about you, Pete?
I'm going to go for a 2-1 Newcastle win.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go for the 2-1 win. Genius is just
Genius is with you. He's with you. He's with you.
I said 2-1, and then that just popped up in the great minds, Genius, the great minds. But I'm going for a 2-1 win. I think we're going to ramp it up. The stadium's going to be rocking. Boys are going to be up for it, and I just think we could really surprise them on the counter. Absolutely. So I'm going for the win.
He's with you as well, mate. He's with you as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back the boys. Hopefully, 3 points on the board, and yeah, we would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But people, we're out of here. Great show, great chat, great preview. Fingers crossed our lineup and predictions come in. Get your predictions in for the game as we sign out for the show, people. Make sure you hit those likes. I think we're less than 10 away from hitting our target. That's a wrap. Anything to say before we head out, Chris?
No, I just please put in a performance at the weekend, boys. I really need it. Bank holiday Monday. Everyone's going to be bang up for it. I'm going to be in the stack, so if anyone's knocking on the stack, come and have a look for me. Come and say hello. It'd be lovely to see you. I'm going to be in the stack on Monday night, and I can't wait.
Looking forward to it. People, we're out of here. The big match preview is done. See you soon. Take care.